Last one before town meeting, and we're discussing the warrant articles in particular here. I guess we'll go over the minutes first for February the 6th. You know, I looked them over, but I wasn't here, so I can't confirm them.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting February 6, 2013.
So seconded.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as written. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none? So moved. Okay, the next thing we have on the agenda is the public hearing. So we'll just open it right up to public for discussion. Actually, maybe we should we have some changes first.
There's one change in the budget.
Yeah, we have a couple changes. I believe there was one for the police department item
right,
for a
technology.
server.
In line item, oh gosh, under the police, 421099-340, PD equipment maintenance, repair and technology. Page 3.
Right about the middle of the page.
Yep. An unexpected expense. They need a new server. There's an imminent danger of failing any day. Unfortunately, I don't know the technical jargon, but I guess that would be quite catastrophic, and it takes them quite a long time to do anything on their computer system, which isn't good for the PD. So the selectmen voted to take it out of the revolving fund for now, since we're in a maintenance period with our budget until it's approved at town hall. And then to put it back, we thought we should put it back in the technology budget. The total is $6,204. So the new amount, well, you can see in the selectmen's column, I brought it up to $24,339.
Catherine, is there any backup system for the data on the servers?
There is.
Chief?
Good, okay. Is it a 24-hour backup?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is, it's actually the primary workhorse that runs the station. That's the one that just got too old, couldn't handle it anymore.
Okay, but there is a system so that if it did, God forbid it should break at 12:01 tonight, that data would still be retrievable at that point in time.
It'll take a while, but yes.
Yeah, it always does. Okay.
Oh, yeah, my understanding is the only thing they'd lose is what they were currently working on when it fails.
Okay.
How old is the present one?
I think it's probably about 6 years time, 6 or 7 years old.
Any resale value, or?
No, I think, they're talking about repurposing it to store like the video we get from robberies and stuff like that. Try that. I think Tim and Mara talked about that option, and they thought it would be best to just repurpose it. It's kind of a storage solution.
Oh, okay, so we can still use it for some type of other...
Now, the new server that's going to be brought forward, is it a larger capacity computer than the one that we have at this point in time? And warranted and all that good stuff, hopefully? Okay, good, thank you.
Now, previously in that line item, were there any other repairs to that server? Or I know we had some...
Most of that line item, as I understand it, were the maintenance agreements.
IMC and software
Yeah.
licenses and the voice over IP, right,
The phone system.
the phone system.
This was unexpected.
Oh, so the other stuff was for the phone, okay.
We need a motion?
If anybody wishes to, or...
I
or we
would
just-
make the motion that we alter the Budget Committee's recommendation to include the updated numbers from Catherine. Those numbers are?
You would include $6,204 to bring it up to a total of $24,339.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second to amend the Budget Committee's line item of $18,135 to be $24,339. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. Okay, I believe we had another change. There was a fill in the amount for the repairs, or the,
In the budget?
in the warrant articles. Oh,
think
you know,
we
we can
have-
have the public hearing first, and then we'll decide on that.
I think the warrant articles are just as the selectmen had voted on them at the last meeting.
There was a blank.
Yeah,
The last one, oh no, that isn't filled in.
Blank, and we got the estimates.
35,000 was
No.
what was,
I'm a little curious here. We approved a blank, open, like open check?
No, we had an amount.
yeah.
Catherine gave them.
Currently, the top figure for expense is proposed at 35,000. And that's what they voted to put
And that
in
didn't
there.
change.
We can talk more about that later if you want, or now.
Well, why don't we just open it up for public, I think,
Budget and then the warrant? I'm getting confused.
we're doing, it was just a question if there was an amount assigned to the warrant article. It had been left up in the air, the exact amount, and now it's been filled in to be
Yeah, I had,
What was,
in that
I
warrant
just
article.
let
got it we got it last week, but we had to have it verified.
yeah, you'll see that they voted on the 35,000, which is probably a high estimate.
Right here.
It's Article 12. Yeah, the one I also was wondering about was Article 13, was that a fixed number?
Mine aren't numbered. I've got a one that's numbered.
So, anyway, we'll open this up to public comment, and I guess, Scott?
John, on Article 7, I have, as a taxpayer in town, I have great concerns about adding more money to the recreational fund. This rec department, or this parks department, through the rec fund, took out over $5,000 to buy a skating rink. I don't believe anyone gets a skating rink. I go up there today, and it's disgusting how that looks. There's one bumper on it, the rest of them are all gone for safety. It's full of snow. And it looks like it's half the size it was the first year. It looks like the liner's all bunched up on both ends to make it a smaller size. I think that's a waste of our taxpayers' money, and they're asking for $5,000. They wasted $5,000 as far as I'm concerned with that skate rink. And furthermore, they've spent over $13,000 on a wall up there that I don't think they've ever pumped a gallon of water out of this fund to create recreation. That's what we were told when I sat on the budget committee. The reason they took the funds out was to create recreation. I'd like to know, or would be explained to me as a taxpayer, how that's creating recreation when it's over $13,000 to a well and there's never been a gallon of water pumped out of it.
Okay, anybody have a comment?
Actually, there's been lots of gallons of water pumped out of it because it wasn't drilled just for the ice rink. It's also used for irrigation on the field.
We were told it was going to fill that rink, Kathy.
And it has been used to fill the rink. The problem with the rink is your park commissioners are not experienced skate rink people. I've had conversations with the town of Ashland, and they kind of went through the same thing we did, and I wish I'd talked to them when we first bought it. But the problem that happened this year is when they went out to put it up, and I wasn't there, but when they went out to erect it, the ground was already frozen. And there are braces that have to go into the ground. So it had a lot of problems. The wind picked up when they were trying to fill it and blew the liner so that when the water went in, it froze on the other side of the liner, so the water was going into the field. The park commissioners are talking to the manufacturers of that rink now, and have already made plans for the fall to get the various teams that use the field to volunteer to help erect it. I'm also suggested to them that they have a conversation with the Recreation Department of Ashland because they had similar experiences, so we can learn from them. But it isn't a waste of money. It will be up. It will be functional. The sporting teams want to open the snack shack when they're skating there.
But don't you think those things should have all been looked at before we went ahead and purchased something that, we've had it for 2 years. The liner set outside all summer, outside the building that was supposedly donated to the town to put the liner into.
No, we put the rink in it. The liner doesn't fit in the building. It's too heavy. We had to move it with a tractor. The liner was completely covered. It was protected by UV rays and it was on a pallet. So the liner was fine. There wasn't anything wrong with the liner. It was the way it's constructed. And when they bought the ice skating rink, the manufacturer, there were many, I had a conversation with the manufacturer and they said, not a problem, told them exactly how to put it up, but I don't think it's designed for New England.
But I have a problem with putting another $5,000 into that fund. I just think with the people having as much problems as we're having paying our taxes, that the last thing we need to do is put more money into a fund to create more recreation when we can't take care of what we have already. I think if we could take care of what we have already, that'd be one thing, but for the last 2 years, that skate rink has not been running.
And it was only this last time with the skating rink, that money had come out of that fund in, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years?
More than that.
That money had come out, we kept putting money in. I've objected to this warrant article for I don't know how long I've been on the budget committee, objecting to putting more money into that fund. And in this case, there was talk, I know, of using the money in the fund now to do something about creating another ball field, a baseball field. We have baseball fields up at the school, the high school. We have baseball fields up in Samerton that the kids play at. We have the Pines that they're playing at. Are we going to create a new team here in Tilton and separate the kids from the school?
No, it's just a backstop. It's just to put up a backstop so they have a place to practice. Only the school teams can play on the school field. The official teams can play on those school fields. The Little League field down there is not for just kids that want to play baseball on official teams. There's kids that go to that field with a ball and a bat, and
they do the same thing down here,
but they don't belong to any particular team. But the park commissioners will have a presentation for town meeting that shows the different types of.
And they're talking about putting more money into this field. Do we own this field that they're going to level?
We have a lease on this field.
Do we own the field?
No.
No, we lease it.
That's
so
correct.
We're making more improvements to a property that the town does not even own.
The only thing that can't be removed is the well.
And once you put a backstop up in there in the field,
That can be
make more
removed
improvements
just
to
as
that
easily
field.
as it's put up. Everything can be removed except for the well.
John?
Sure, go ahead, continue.
In regards to that article, another thing I have concerns on this, Tony's brought up, that's leased from the Diocese of Manchester, Catholic Diocese. And we're all aware that this church now is sharing a priest with Franklin. And it's just a matter of time. And it was in the cards many years ago that they talked about that. They had a meeting that eventually Tilton Assumption Church is going to be closed. They're either going to be going to Belmont or they're going to be going to Franklin. And when that happens, the diocese is, we're looking at or using a piece of land that's probably worth several $1 million, a few million anyway, because of what they sold where the Walgreens store went. So that's worth at least a couple of $1 million. When the diocese looks at closing this church, there'll be no, I mean, St. John's Cemetery that sits next to it, that's the expansion land for St. John's Cemetery. And there's no way that they're ever going to be using that as a cemetery because they have plenty of burial space within the cemetery that they currently own. So, I mean, the second that happens, the diocese will be, there's no question in mind, will be selling off properties as they have throughout the rest of the country and the state as the Catholic Church gets smaller and they consolidate different churches. So my concern is that we're putting money into a piece of land that we have no guarantee whether it's going to be here tomorrow or we're going to be able to use it tomorrow. There's no guarantee. And if it is such that it does disappear, the lease, where are they going to go with this skating rink on town land that they have up there? Where are they going to move it to then? Have they thought about that? Where they go with it? I don't believe so. So, and furthermore, what I have a grave problem with is I look through here and I look at seeing that the town's looking at spending money on lighting, a lighting article. I just walk down through town. Every light's on in the park down the other end of town. If they want to save money on lights, why aren't we shutting those lights off? I shut them off at my house. You know, everyone's struggling out there with taxes, and yet every light's on in this park at the other end of Main Street. Right now, you can walk down there, every light's on. I just came walking down past it. And I think that's ridiculous. And that's been brought up, not now, but it's been brought up many times that the lights have been left on in that park. And I think it's about time that some lights get shut off around here. It's ridiculous that we're spending, they're looking at spending $17,000 on light replacements in a police building that we just said here a few weeks ago, and we're told that they're going to be looking at going somewhere else. It's just a Band-Aid to keep them in there. So why are we going into a PD building and replacing lights when we're looking at going to replace it in the near future? Or moving somewhere else? It makes no sense. You talk about wasting money. I think that's a big waste of money. The other item I have a question on is Article 10 for the recycling. I have a question because when I look back through the selectmen's minutes, when this was brought up in front of the selectmen, the cost was $50,750 because the program's only going to start out for a half a year. But yet the funding is for $87,000. I'd like to explain to me why it went from $50,750 because the program's going to start in July and run through the end of the year, and now it's up to $87,000.
I think we have asked somebody from the recycling committee if they could explain that. It's Marge.
I'm Marjorie Bonneville, and I'm chairman of the Recycle Committee. And we put the $87,000 in there to set up the revolving fund because that's the estimated cost for curbside pickup for a year for the recycled material. Now, our plan is to start in June, which, it was recommended by someone that we only put in half of the amount of money. But we really felt we needed to have the funds in there for the whole year, for the whole amount of the contract, not for half of the contract, even though it goes, into half of another year. And, we did decide it was $87,000. It was in the minutes that it was $57,000. That was just because it was discussed. It wasn't ever part of our warrant article to change it, but we did discuss that it could be amended at the town meeting if they wanted. But we really felt if we're going to enter into a contract for $87,000 for the year, that we need to have that amount of funds available. Now, this amount of funds going into the revolving fund, we will be getting that money back. This isn't, even though we're going to be putting that out, the money is going to be coming back into the fund from the sale of bags too. So this money will stay within, even though we're appropriating 87,000, that amount of money, even if it's not spent in this year, will stay in that fund. It won't go back into the general fund. So it will be, what's left of it will be spent next year for the rest of that contract. So in reality, we could change it at town meeting and lower it to the lower amount. But we really felt if we're going to enter into a contract for that amount of money, we should fund the whole amount. So that's why it's 87,000.
What is,
Dale, Scott?
I guess I'm more confused now than I was before I asked the question. I thought when we budget for the year 2013, and the budget ends December 31st, 2013. That's budgeting. And if you budget for what you need in 2013. You don't budget and put money in just because you're going to put it in a fund. When you set it here as the budget committee, you're budgeting for this year, 2013. And even though 3 months have gone by the time we get to town meeting, or 2.5 months, it still gets put into the 2013 year. I guess I'm very confused that we're going to be budgeting something at 87,000, but the cost for just the months that we're using in 2013 is 50,750, and yet we're asking to be putting 87,000? Makes no sense. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I don't know that much about when the town signs the contract, but if we sign a contract for a year that it's going to cost $87,000, I think we're committing to a year from when we sign the contract.
You can't carry money over unless you carry
In a
it.
revolving fund, you can.
And it's similar to like what we do with the police car.
That's why it's in a revolving fund.
I had a question regarding that. If we were to fund it for the 50,750, or we could come up with a figure, this year, next year, would it still be a warrant article to fund the rest of it, or would it become a line item in the budget?
It would be a line item.
It'd be up to the selectmen to decide.
So it could just be worked into the budget and as a line item next year when we'd come up with some more information as to how much we really need, the returns on the bags and things like that. Would that work out? I'm going to have Joyce said.
Just to clarify, with the current sanitation for the MSW solid waste that we have, that contract year goes from April 1st to March 31st. So we budget 3 months at whatever the monthly rate is, and then 9 months at whatever the new rate is. We've been very fortunate for the past 3 years, there's been no increase. So that's how we would normally do it. The difference with the revolving fund is that the money that goes in there stays in there. So that we have to like start the fund. You got to have some money to start it, so that your revenue from your bag sales will go into that fund. So that should be a self-generating fund that, if everybody participates and we can reduce our incinerator waste, you'll have revenue in there that will pay it. So you wouldn't have to go into the operating budget. It'd be like completely off budget.
Okay,
So
Scott.
that even adds more fuel to what my argument is. Why would we be putting extra money that's going to stay in a fund that is going to generate revenue that's going to go back into that fund? If we only need $50,750 to start the fund, and I think that when I've listened to the committee, the recycling committee, they've always been concerned what the impact is on the taxpayer and the user in town. If that's the case, then I would like to see the lower amount be used if the fund's going to generate money through the bag sales anyway. I mean, if that money's going to be being put back into that fund, why are we putting more money in a specific fund than what we need? If the $50,750 carries us this year, and we have more money coming in every year, it should be carrying itself then, is what you're telling us.
Marge?
I just know that when we first started discussing it and we got bid proposals, we were just told we should have the money available for the whole contract that we're going to enter into. And that's why we put the $87,000 in here. Now, we can amend it to $50,000 if that's, if we can enter into a contract for $87,000 that it's only going to cost us $50,000. If that's legal to do, that's fine with us to change it. But we were covering ourselves to have enough money in that fund to cover the contract for a year that we were going to sign. That's the only reason it was in there. Now, if finance director and everybody else who has legal, decisions say we're fine with 50,000, then that's fine with us to, to do it. We know that it's going to be extra money. And, it is putting extra money in this year, but all of that money will come out, if not this year, by next year. It could come out this year out of the fund before the end of the year, and offset the solid waste. But probably it will offset it next year. All of this money will, for this contract, should be coming back in the form of revenue from the bags.
But if I'm not mistaken, if it's in the line item budget, so therefore, say that with the recycling picks up substantially, now on the solid waste side, what we haul in for the tipping fees will be reduced because we're hauling in less tonnage, right?
Correct.
So if that takes place, the selectmen have the prerogative to take money out of that line, the solid waste line, and move it over to subsidize this program. So I think it's foolish that we're looking at putting $30-some thousand more in the line than what we actually need, Marjorie. I'm supporting the article, but I think it's wrong the way, I think we're putting too much money. And I think that you're going to have a harder time selling it if you see a number like 87,000 versus the 50,750 that is needed to start the program.
Have the selectmen gone over any of these numbers to come up with comparing the 50,750 compared to putting in 87, which is, I thought...
We had very similar conversations with the recycling committee, what's taking place now. But the recycling committee felt very adamantly that that should be the starting figure for the program.
And the selectmen agree with that?
They approved it, yes.
What's the tax implication for the two?
The tax implication is a little less than 20 cents. It's approximately 10 cents for every 50,000, every 51,000.
I don't think it's just a tax implication, Jane. I think the other concern that I've had in the past is the fact that you're going to have families paying for the bags then. So it's huge. It's much more than just the tax implication of the 87,000. It's what the impact is going to be, for a family with 3 or 4 kids, what is going to be the impact. I also have concern on what it's going to do to our welfare line if you start to subsidize families with bags. What's it going to do to our welfare line? And also the accounting of it. Who's going to take accounting of the bags, and what is it going to be, what's going to be worked into that? So I have other concerns also. I support, and I know we need to take care of our earth, but also I think we have to do it in a way that is upfront with the taxpayers and to show exactly what the true costs are, and is there actually a savings? Because we are a unique town in the fact that a huge percentage of our waste, is commercial haulers. When you look at the tonnage that we haul in down there, a huge percentage, and we're much greater than a lot of other small towns our size, is on commercial haulers, which we get reimbursed. So the line that you look at.
Consideration in all of our figures.
Okay, I think, Mr. Jessamine?
The accounting of the bags are done by a company that manages that professionally, known as Waste Zero. We asked a number of different, there's a lot of people that are getting into this field, and for the cost of the bag, they drop them off, they do the accounting, they collect the money, they remit it to us. We have outlets tentatively lined up to purchase the bags from one end of town to the other, and we chose smaller local locations to drive the traffic. What was the other part of your question? As soon as your hand went up.
I mean, the welfare side of it.
Oh, the
I have
welfare side
concerns
of it.
because I've heard that there's going to be an availability through families that are struggling to get it through the welfare system.
There's bound to be some of that. There's no doubt in my mind, because it's going to cost people money. On a point-of-sale basis, right now, we pay this through our taxes. It's the biggest single line item outside of salaries and the benefits that go with them that we have here in the town, and it's only going to go up. We're looking at spending another couple $100,000 at the end of 2014, but the same amount of garbage we dump now, and we have a subsidized tipping fee rate with the co-op, which the co-op, the best of my knowledge, and I sit on the operating committee, will be the front that's at that time. At that time, it's projected to be $115 a ton without the transportation costs. So we're paying these prices right now. If we recycle, right now we're taking about 9% out of the waste stream. And that includes the CNG, the construction and demolition, the stuff that we get down at the transfer station, and the single stream recycling we have down there. Approximately 9%. Most towns find that they're getting 30, 35, and 40% out of the waste stream. And yes, the amounts for the collection of MSW and those line items will be down next year because we won't be bringing it, if this were to pass. The line items would be down. How much, I can't tell you, but we budget for that at the time. For me, this is a matter of equity as much as anything else. And I know some people will pay more. And some people who recycle will pay less. It costs the average homeowner a ballpark of $280 a year for the MSW contract. Our part of the MSW contract, not including the commercial hours that we have to budget for in advance. So it's costing $280 per household to get rid of their MSW right now.
That's that's after you've subtracted out the commercial haulage? On the 1,400 ton that's being hauled down there? It's $280?
That's the figure, average. Some people pay more, some people pay less. It all depends on the price of your land and valuation. Sir, one thing to remember in all of this is that out of that $87,000 that's to be assessed, slightly more than half of it goes against the commercial properties in this town. I think that's an important thing to remember. And yes, some people will pay more, but a lot of people will pay less, and we'll get that out of the MSW in subsequent years. That line for disposal at a landfill, at the incinerator, wherever we do it, should reduce. Is that going to lower your taxes? I can't promise you that because that's outside of this, but we won't be paying that MSW. The people that generate the garbage will be paying for the garbage, just like your water. If I use 15,000 gallons, I pay for it. Okay, we share the infrastructure, but I pay for my usage. I pay for the usage of my sewer. Why wouldn't I pay for the usage of the garbage?
What is going to happen, I guess another concern that I have, and maybe Margaret can address this, how is it going to be policed with the bags, that if there's bags that are put out for trash at different various locations, and they're not picked up because they're not in the color-coded bag that the town has sold?
The first few weeks of the program, the people will be left a notice or talked to, and probably left a note, their garbage will be left out in front. And
So what are we going to do on Main Street, Margaret? I guess that's my concern. It's all thrown in big piles. When I walk down here tonight, there's piles of trash out on the street that are just thrown together, and there's no way to identify it came from this unit or that unit. I mean,
well,
how are we going to address that?
I don't know that on Main Street, but the garbage can be opened up and looked for addresses inside to see who it belongs to.
But who's going to do that, I guess? That's my concern.
The people who are going to do the collecting of it will leave it and leave a notice with it the first couple weeks. But we hope that the selectmen will come up with fines for people.
But I mean, who's going to dig through the bags, Marjorie? I guess that's my concern. That's not going to be the selectmen, I'm sure it's
No,
a path.
it's going to be.
Well, I don't know, other garbage.
I've already done that.
It's going to be public
Pat,
works
are you
and
volunteer for that?
TV show, Tilton Pickers.
But I'm just saying, that's my concern, is that we have areas that trash bags are thrown together, and if they're not picked up, how is that going to be addressed? And it's not, I hope we're not going to be a situation where the bag is sitting there until crows have taken 3/4 of it, you know.
The police
away.
department will have to enforce
Oh.
our littering ordinance, our trash ordinance. We already have a trash ordinance, and that is our enforcement authority for that.
You know,
Those ordinances.
there are going to be problems the first.
Oh, I know
the
that,
first
and I
few
just want to
weeks,
ask
you
how
know,
they're going to be addressed.
But,
One of the things about the...
Okay,
It's a
we had, Tony was waiting to ask a question, and Sandy was too, so I want to give, and Tim. So, Tony, do you still have a question?
I have
On,
issues in general with this warrant article, besides the sticker shock of $87,000, because that's the first thing, that this basically takes the savings that we get by paying off the Silver Lake bond and just tosses it away. So, you know, we're increasing the taxes on our constituents, and everybody's still struggling. That's a lot of money for one warrant article. And we have the hauler fees, those already built into the highway budget, what we're paying, plus this, plus we're also going to be taxing our constituents by telling them, you now have to go out and buy a trash bag in order to throw away your trash. So we're hitting them 3 times this year for their trash. 3 times. That's a lot. And I know it's supposed to replenish the fund, but, and I know that sometime in the future, we'll get this money back. But I don't see that it's ever going to make somebody's taxes go down. That's a concern of mine. I have a concern for people that are living off the main roadways, like such as myself. My driveway is 40, 50 feet long. So I'm going to have to carry a recycling bucket down my driveway.
It's on wheels.
On wheels.
I'm gonna, have you seen my driveway? Mm-hmm. That's a long way to take a bucket, and I'm not the only one with a driveway like that, and at least mine is paved. There's a lot of driveways out there that are gonna have those buckets that do not have a paved driveway that they can, or a truck to put it on, and it's going to make it difficult for them to get their trash to the curb.
How do those people get their trash to the trap now?
Well, I use bags.
How do they get
Right
their
now, it goes in a small barrel, and it goes on the tailgate of the car or the back of the car. Now, you're talking about a bucket full of stuff. It's going to, it's,
I couldn't lift that onto my truck.
yeah.
I'll have to drag it down my dirt driveway.
It's not going to go in the back of somebody's car, or it's not even going to fit in the truck, on the tailgate of the truck, and make it down the driveway. It's going to have to be wheeled.
Marge, did you have a response to that? And then I'll go to Sandy.
Is that
Or-
recycling is done all across this country with barrels like that, or ones that you have to carry in numerous towns, including, you know, cities like Concord and rural towns like Goffstown. People have a driveway, and they just,
I'm
they're
not
just
saying
gonna
they don't,
have
Mike.
to...
I'm saying that it's a problem, and it
Well,
needs to be looked at. It has to be
and I
part of
remember when we
the
did the
thought
street
process.
fair here, the people in Franklin had just gone to recycling, and an older woman said to me, oh, it's really tough, you know, pulling that down. Then they have to get someone to help them. Just because there are a few individual cases is not a reason not for us to do it. And I didn't get a chance to explain the whole Warren article, and you're kind of picking it, you know, at different things. But, you know, as garbage has evolved from our forefathers who dumped it in the backyard, and then we had one central dump that we dumped it in, and then we went to transfer. Each time it cost more to do that. This is going to cost a little more. In the long run, it is going to save the town thousands of dollars, you know, and it will save ultimately the taxpayers thousands of dollars. You know, if it wasn't, we wouldn't have spent 3 years talking about this, investigating it, finding out how to do it. The cost for getting rid of your garbage is going to go sky high in the next few years. And the only way to bring the cost down is to eliminate the tipping fees of getting rid of it by recycling it. Yes, it's costing more to get it started up. Yes, it's costing more because we are going to give the convenience of doing it at the curb, as opposed to people in other towns like Sanborn that have to take it to the town dump and have to separate it, some of them. You know, it's going to be single stream, and yes, it's going to be more inconvenient for some people. It's going to present some difficulties for some people. It's going to be an expense for everyone. But the more they recycle, the less of bags it will cost them. And if we don't do anything, which if it doesn't pass this year, we may decide to just, we're not going to do it. But we will be paying that line item for solid waste. You're going to see it steadily go way, way up as each year goes. You're going to see the taxes go up because that is going to
They
go
go up
way up.
every year anyways.
But this is going to make them go down because we are going to take a huge amount of tonnage out of that solid waste stream.
Okay, let me just interject here. I think what we need to do is, we're not going to settle whether recycling is right or not here tonight. But the question is to see if we should put $87,000 into that fund for doing it. And I don't know if we've addressed exactly if that amount is correct or if the 50,000 would be appropriate. I'd like to look into that a little more. Sandy, did you have anything else? I don't want to keep going over the recycling, whether it's right or not, because that's going to be a big thing when we get to the floor.
All I wanted to add is the monies that are in our budget, that is for residential. Commercial pays for their own. We don't pay for that. Commercial...
No, but it's budgeted. It's budgeted.
It's budgeted, but we only pay for the residential part. Commercial pays too.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
when we budget for the full amount of the what's hauled down there for the tipping, including, out of the total tonnage, only 1,400 ton is residential, the rest of it's all commercial. But we do, when the budget committee sits there and puts a budget together,
Right.
it is budgeted the full amount. So you can't say that you're only budgeting
But
any
to say it
residential.
that way, to say it might be budgeted that way, but it's not costing the taxpayers that whole amount.
And
Because
that
some
was
of that
my
is
point
coming
earlier,
back.
Sandy, is that when you look at that dollar amount, you can't take that dollar amount and say that if we get to 40% recycling, 40% of that number will be reduced, because it's not that number.
Right.
It's the number based off the 1,400 tons that are being hauled down on the residential side that you have to work with.
But the commercial side can also recycle.
They're already recycling, and we're not going to get any more of theirs. Go up back to Lowe's and look and see what they're recycling. They've got their self set up, they're pressing their cardboard, they're pressing all the recyclables, and they're selling it. That's why we're not going to get their recyclables no matter what we do. We're not going to get any of the commercials out of their recyclables. So I guess that's why, as a taxpayer and a resident, I'm concerned. I know we've got to do something, but I'm concerned that to keep the dollar amount as minimal as possible. The concern that I have is I don't want to hear to the taxpayer that this is going to save them money. There's nobody can sit here tonight and say this is going to save them money, period. There's no way you can say that. Because number one, you don't know what the percentage of recycling is going to be. You don't know what the expense. Franklin's a perfect example. They've rolled out this 2 years ago, and they've got huge expenses with their trucks that they never envisioned. They went out and bought brand new trucks, and they're having huge maintenance problems. And if you don't believe me, get down and talk to the highway department, and they'll tell you about it. So, but to sit here and say that this is going to save taxpayers dollars, I don't think we can sit here and say that, in all honesty, to the taxpayer.
Do you know of any other problems they're having besides maintenance with their trucks?
Not with those brand new trucks yet, but the maintenance is huge compared to what they thought they were going to.
Well, we wouldn't have that issue because it's obviously subbed out, but do you know of any other problems they're having with the
The
recycling?
barrels aren't placed properly for
Yeah, it's hard to
pickup.
get a
It's
hold
an
of the barrels.
automated truck.
They're time-consuming.
They're too far away, they're too close. What do you do?
Yeah, I'd like to try and stick to the number, and let's hash out that number, if you're good. Okay.
As a person, not as a recycle guy or a selectman, I would be real comfortable with a lesser number in the warrant article. I anticipate that if we only pick up the approved bags and people have to pay for the bags and the money goes into the account created by the warrant article, that there will be money for the
revolving account.
revolving fund to pay beyond, in January, February, March of 2014.
So-
I think we need to figure out carefully what, based on last year's figures of tonnage over these months, how much we would need to raise to get us through there.
Okay.
For the bags,
How much are they going to be, that you will have to buy them, or that
how much will they cost our constituents to go out to the store? And there's only 3 locations, I understand, where there's going to be?
There's at least
It
5.
hasn't been determined yet. There will be more than
But how much are the bags?
that. We have determined that the small ones will be $1 each, and the larger ones will be $2 each.
What sizes are small and large?
18-gallon and 33-gallon. 18-gallon, I think, is what most people use in their kitchen now. The 33-gallon is kind of the big...
The big trash cans.
And they will be sturdy.
John?
Just
Just
go-
one further point. I look at this as it's, what we're looking to put into the warrant article for finances should be the seed money that's needed to start this program, not the money that's needed to keep it going. Because this program, if I'm understanding Marge and Joe right, this program, through the revenue from the bag, should self-sustain itself, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true?
That's the plan.
Okay, so this is seed money, and so therefore we should put the money, as Joe has stated, and he'd be comfortable, we should only put money in this warrant article that's needed as seed money to get this program going, not more money than is needed. That's a concern that I have as a taxpayer, and that's my point that I've been trying to bring up here.
Okay, I don't know if any of the other Budget Committee members have any other questions. I think we'll discuss this.
Cadet.
Yeah, I think we'll discuss this, as a Budget Committee, on the information that we've had.
Can I bring up another article?
Mr. Chair, this is supposed to be a public meeting on the
On the
budget,
budget, not on
not the
warrant
selectmen's
articles.
warrant article.
No, this is warrant article.
This is warrant articles.
You said in the paper it was warrant article.
This is on the warrant articles on whether we approve them or disapprove them.
That was last week.
That was not a public hearing. This is a public hearing this week.
I understand.
Okay, so this is what we're going
Shall
to
hold
do.
one public hearing on each budget not later than 25 days for the public meetings are on the budget.
Budget hearing
Right.
on warrant articles.
This is, it is,
Budget committee.
excuse me, I'm going, yes, we can vote on any part of the budget and discuss any part of the budget this meeting. What we did is we broke up the meetings, 2 meetings. The first one was to be on the budget itself, so that if there were any more changes on it, we had this second meeting where we would be bringing in the warrant articles, and also, if somebody wants to bring up something on the regular budget, they can. I would have hoped that they would have done it previously, but we can discuss that. But tonight, we're trying to focus on the warrant articles, unless there's something really glaring out there.
That's what I've been trying to focus on. I have one other
Okay.
question.
Go ahead.
In regards to
Ready
Article
to
12.
change the amounts.
Article 12, when I watched the budget meeting last week online, it stated that that was the top bid, not that it was the lowest bid, it was the top bid.
On which one?
On Article 12, 35,000 for the clearing of the lot.
Correct.
If we went out and got estimates, why are we going, maybe I'm mistaken, maybe it's not the highest bid.
It is the highest bid.
It is the highest bid.
Yep.
Why is that, I guess? I think-
Because we hadn't gotten a second bid by the time that we came to the budget committee.
So it should be a number that should be changed?
Well, the selectmen will have that conversation Thursday night to
So it could be
determine that.
changed, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it could be changed.
Okay.
There are a lot of factors, and we can discuss them tonight, but the selectmen will address it tomorrow night. There's a lot of factors involved with this. One price that we got,
This is for everybody.
I have enough for all the budget committee members.
John.
Okay.
We have one price for $35,000, that's the first one that came in. And that price will get us a place to put snow that won't have to be altered or changed for many, many years. The piece of property on 61 Business Park Drive is far from level. So if we bring in all the gravel to make it level and utilize all of the area that we can there, we want to leave a buffer, then it would be approximately $35,000. If we go in there and we just make an area 100 by 100, right now, to get in there, it won't be level, you know, the trucks will have to go down and dip and whatnot. That estimate is $12,698.
But it would be my hope, Catherine, again, when the selectmen consider this, that we're looking at, let's save that lot, and if that industrial park takes off, and a business comes in looking at that lot, that the town would consider selling the lot as opposed to using it just as a snow dump.
But we don't have any place to put snow.
What's that?
The town does not have a
I
place to
understand
put
that, but
snow.
what I'm saying, in the future, you might be able to find a place. And
Oh,
what I'm
yeah,
saying is,
sure.
I would rather see us invest the smallest amount of money we could to find it, to get us the snow dump, I guess is what I'm saying, with the chance in the future of being able to sell that lot if that park was to ever take off.
Well, yeah, and you could look at it the other way, that, and I'm not in favor of the $35,000, it just happened to be that's the one that came in, but that would make the lot more valuable because we'd be leveling it. So for development, the $35,000
I don't
would
think
be
you get $35,000.
Okay, I think we have,
But nevertheless, the selectmen will take it up Thursday, now that we have the second estimate, we have other things to consider on that besides just the
I
estimate.
think,
I think I have a question.
who's first? Go ahead. You good.
My question is this, is that the selectmen have already voted on this, and the budget committee has already voted on this, and this recommendation. We are here now at a public hearing to discuss this warrant article. If the selectmen go back and revise their amount, would it not then have to be revised at town meeting, as this will be the final public hearing and you will not have time for another public hearing? Would you, if you revised it here at the budget committee, we would have to have another public hearing on it?
Not on the warrant. The budget committee, if the selectmen change the amount,
That's what I'm saying, it would have to be amended on the floor at this point, on the floor of town meeting.
no, if the selectmen change the amount, then they probably would lose the endorsement of the budget committee on the warrant article. Joyce?
This is your public hearing, okay? You don't have to finalize your MS7. You don't have to give your MS7 to the selectmen until, I believe it's February 25th. I'll have to double check on the date.
It is the right date.
So you still have time. The selectmen still have time tomorrow night. So as long as you don't change a purpose, you can change dollar amounts. But you can't, these warrant articles as presented, you can't change them, but you can change dollar amounts. So if time's permitting, where the budget committee can have a meeting and vote, because you're going to have to meet anyway to sign your MS7, the selectmen are meeting tomorrow night, you can still meet, as long as you change the amounts. Like, you couldn't go and change on Article 12 where you were going to go put the snow down. Because that's what you're putting forth, it's on that lot. That's the purpose of that money on that lot. But you could change the amount. Yes, yes. The other thing you can do is amend them at town meeting. Amend the amounts at town meeting.
Is there anybody else has any questions? I want to make sure everybody else is getting heard, too. Scott?
What is in the unreserved fund balance now within town? John? And I asked that before I asked my next question.
Tim, do you?
It's going to be about 800,000. You don't have a number?
I don't have the final number for 2012.
So right around 800,000? And DRA says, what, somewhere around 10%?
Variable.
I mean, you can vary it, but they give a rule of thumb.
DRA doesn't give it, it's the Government Finance Officers Association has a recommended range from 5% up to 17%.
And what does 800,000 give us, Tim?
That gives us about, I think that's right around 8.5%, 9%.
Of our budget?
Yes. Yep.
Our budget's not $8 million.
No, it goes based on our total tax commitment.
I mean, the school included?
Tax commitment. The 10 million. But it's less than that.
Go ahead.
I'd like to change the subject, and I apologize. On Article 4, I'm curious, I don't see any verbiage in this year's article that says contingent upon the same amount appropriated by Northfield. And I was curious about that because I took a privy to the budget hearing the other night, and I did not see that similar warrant article. And so I'm curious, is this going to go into a fund regardless of what Northfield says in that?
Yes, I think the thoughts were is that inevitably we have to do something about the island. And it would be prudent, we had gotten some costs of, was it around $60,000 or so to fix the wall? And we decided that...
$125,000.
So, and that's going up, and we decided it would be prudent to start putting some money away, because sooner or later we're going to have to do it, in hopes that when Northfield and it comes to a head and the island's about to wash away, they're going to have to come up with some money, and we'll have part of ours, so it won't be such a burden on the taxpayers.
So you're planning ahead for that?
Planning ahead.
This does not mean that any work will be done out of this funds, but you're going to put it into a capital reserve and hold on to it in the meantime until
Yes.
an agreement of some sort can be met with them.
They don't have the item, we can't do any work on it unless they're...
Right. No, I just happened to notice the difference that last year, so 15,000 did not go in last year, correct?
It did.
It did go in.
Tilton.
In Tilton, yeah.
It did.
But not Northfield.
Not in
Not
Northfield.
Northfield.
No, ours was not.
Right.
We took that out of our warrant article last
I
year.
didn't notice it that way.
Yeah, it was just to raise and appropriate. It was not contingent on Northfield raising.
So you're going to continue that?
So continue.
Thank you.
Scott?
John, I just need a point of clarification from Tim. He said that it's on the total, then why do we have an unreserved fund balance in the school? Why do we have an unreserved fund balance in the fire district if it's on our total tax obligation?
The school doesn't carry them fund balance. And
They've taken money out of it before.
They can't by law.
take out money of remainder before it's redistributed, but they're not, they haven't been allowed for RSA to hold a fund balance.
The fire district does, for sure. Carries an unreserved fund balance, don't they, Pat?
I don't know what the amount is, but we do have one.
Yeah. So I guess I have a concern as a taxpayer, if DRA or this group that you're referring to says that we have to carry an unreserved fund balance for other entities that's already carrying an unreserved fund balance that are being taxed on.
We don't have to carry anything. It's a guideline. And I could be wrong, it may not be under commitment, but from what I recall, it's been a while since I worked at the forum, but we've been well over the minimum value. And also, the fund balance is just an estimate, so that will certainly change.
And I was always under the impression it was just the town, Tim, and I could be wrong too. But my concern is, when I look at Article 6, I've come down to meetings this past year and this year, early on, talking about our roads and our infrastructure that's deteriorating around us. And if we're carrying more in an unreserved fund balance than we should be, I would be one that would say, let's take some out of our unreserved fund balance and build up our roads, streets, and bridge fund with that to help supplement that. We all know we've got terrible roads and that we're going to have to do something. And the state, what we get from the state is going to dry up, and if you don't believe that, I guess I don't know what to tell you. But
If I may, just keep in mind, the unreserved fund balance is not a cash balance. So that's various different liquid and illiquid assets. So it's not something we can necessarily tap. And in the past years, a certain amount of that has been returned to the taxpayers at tax rates at any time. So, plus there are some other, there will be some things over the next 5 years, some of that will be dedicated towards ensuring that we have a full balance of the bond.
But at the same time, there has been articles, John, in the past that have taken monies out of the unreserved fund balance to fund. I've attended town meetings when that's happened. So there is liquid assets within the unreserved fund balance that could be tapped, I'm sure. I don't know what the amount is, but I would say, when I look, and we've all heard this when we've attended the meetings, I think the 65,000, we're fooling ourselves, if you want my plain English. I think we're just fools if we think $65,000 is going to be taking care of what we need to be putting away for roads. And I think that if we don't be honest with ourselves right from the start and say, what is the true number? I mean, we had it here when I sat on the budget committee. The road agent brought in a CIP with the roads and the streets and what it was going to cost. And we all saw that number. And we all know that 65,000 puts a very, very small dent in it. And the roads are not going to be getting any better, that's for sure, without doing some improvements. And I think that I look at this, that we're putting money away in a savings account to help offset the costs in the future. And I just think that we're fooling ourselves. We're looking at some warrant articles here that are asking for a lot of money, and this one in particular, 65,000 is not a small amount of money, but I think it's small with what you're trying to do with
Expenses.
very small. So that's a concern I have as a taxpayer.
You know,
Okay.
I've said that for a number of years now, over and over again, every time Dennis comes before us at the budget committee with his 10-year plan, and we see that we've got $4, $5, $6 million over the next 10 years, and we only have $20,000 we're paying this year, but we're going to be paying $400,000 in a couple of years down the line, and we don't have the money in the reserve fund. And I know, oh yeah, we can bond. Well, I don't want to bond anything. I would rather have the money there available to work with.
If I may,
Good, Tim.
the last plan that I saw that he had, where he presented a 3-year project plan, it showed only a total over 3-4 years of $181,000 being spent. And that's where we have almost $300,000 in that fund right now. So I don't disagree with you. I mean, I drive on the same roads, but it's that however many millions isn't in this next 3 years. That's pretty clear. So there was sufficient money in his current fund, as well as with the handle that he saw the next 4
Okay,
years.
Scott?
I think the shortfall there is saying there's enough money to cover the next 3 years, because as Tony stated, when you presented that fund, you had years. There's certain projects, yes, there's small projects you can take care of to keep the fund, and he tried to spread them out, but there's some years when it's a huge bump, and if you don't get on it early, then it's going to hit you hard when you get to that year, as opposed to hitting it soft. If you put money ahead, when you hit that year, you don't get the full blunt of it. You soften the blow. And I think as a budget, and I know as a CIP, if you're putting together a CIP, that's exactly what you're trying to avoid, is a huge hit one year. You're trying to put a CIP together just as you would anything to try to budget out through the CIP so that you're trying to lessen the blow. You don't have 1 year where you get a huge hit. I mean, it's foolish to say that we're going to have the $300,000 is going to be fine the first 3 years, but then the 4th year, you've got a $2 million hit. I mean, you have to look at the whole package. You can't just look at what's 3 years of a 10-year or 20-year CIP.
Sure. I think we discussed a lot of that with Dennis, and one of the things, as you said, some roads for 3 years you can get by just refinishing, but then some have to be completely rebuilt, which are the big ones. Now, your suggestion was to increase that through taxation, or take money out of the unreserved fund balance?
I would like to know what the unreserved fund balance is, and reduce the unreserved fund balance. If we have more money than we need in the unreserved fund balance and it's liquid assets, I'd like to see it moved into this account this line item, or this be amended on the town floor to state, yeah, maybe 65,000 through taxation, but another amount, which is, and I know that the fire district has done it in the past, and I know the town has done it in the past, take money out of the unreserved fund balance to fund an article. And I'd like to see money taken from the unreserved fund balance and dedicated to our roadways. Because we've got roadways that are terrible in this town. And you don't have, you could be a blind man, you could tell that just riding in the car.
You know, when you take monies in 1 year to fix your infrastructure such as roads, only those people in that year that you raised and appropriated pay for the roads. If you bond road projects at a short interest over 20 years, then lots and lots of people that move into the community help pay for those roads. So why would you not want to bond?
I guess I just
You
don't
put
live
money
my
into a
personal life
capital,
that way, Catherine.
you put money into a capital reserve account and it sits there, there's over $200,000 sitting in a capital reserve account earning less than 2% interest. You know, divide that amongst your taxpayers and think of how much money that is to the taxpayers that's only been earning 2.5% interest these years.
Right now it is, but when interest rates come back up, what are you gonna do?
Capital reserve accounts, I think, what's the highest a capital reserve account has ever earned? Have they ever gotten to 2%, Tim?
Oh, yeah, you haven't recently, but they had been. Yeah.
Years ago.
But if you're in an interest rate environment like that, while you may receive more interest in your account based on balances, you're also going to have higher borrowing costs and higher costs in other things. So it's not.
Okay. Anything else? That was...
Can I hit another warrant article?
Sure. How about it?
I've been doing Article 9 here. I put $1,500 into the Lake Improvement Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund since 2007. Can I ask what the balance is in that fund right at this time?
I believe it's all been spent. Each year it does get spent. People have applied for it.
There's a balance. You have it.
7,000.
Is it 7,000?
$7,129.47. It has been used in the past.
They used some last year.
On that sheet.
Okay.
It's a top one, actually.
The mill form.
We've had this money, and it's been sitting there, and it's supposed to be serving a purpose, and it's not getting used. I don't want to not fund this, I don't want to stop the purpose here, but I would like to be seeing it used on a regular basis. And if we have $7,000 there, then we could be doing a little bit more towards making sure that that's in. I think the association's not aware of it.
Well, it was used at
Silver Lake just used some, didn't they? To Silver Lake
area in that
applied for
cove, they
some.
used it. The Silver Lake Association people, they have just recently, in the past couple of years, set themselves up to harvest it.
I think
The
they just
problem
purchased,
is, you know, it was really experimental on how to get rid of it. One of the fellows at DES, Jody Connor, who was very prominent in trying to develop a way, he passed away a few years ago, and he was kind of the pioneer in how to get rid of milfoil. So it's still, you know.
Not harvesters, though.
Yeah,
I think now that harvesting is the best way to get rid of it. Yeah.
yeah, Silver Lake, the association just started putting together a boat, and we
Yep.
funded for some pumps, and they purchased a boat, and we've been funding them as they apply for funds for it. But as you state, it doesn't do much good sitting there. We need to encourage people to remove the milfoil and to be actively after it and harvesting it. It's tough. Oh, not people, but proper use and proper harvesting. Scott?
Could I, just another point of clarification. On the $800,000 that's in the unreserved fund balance, is part of what was put for the sewer betterment receivable that's being carried on the town for $154,000? Is that within that $800,000?
That's an asset.
That's an asset? Of course it's an asset, it's receivable. And that should have been billed out as a betterment, and it wasn't, and it was paid by the town, that's why it's being carried as a receivable?
Well, it's not quite that simple, but the project wasn't complete when the first payment was done, and there was no betterment at the time that that payment came out.
Yeah.
And so by the time the project was complete and the betterment was calculated, it was fully a year after when the second payment was being made. So the determination was to, it's not paid at the beginning, it's paid at the end, so it's shown as a receivable, so that we're sure that that's collected.
But now, my question would be, when that bill, which is being carried as a receivable now and is part of the unreserved fund balance, when that bill came due, or should have come due, that should have been paid by the sewer users in that area as opposed to all taxation, which has been changed to now. So how do you plan on cleaning that off the books, I guess?
There was no ability to bill it at the time that it was done. So,
Yeah, but it was as a sewer betterment, though. That's what the bond came. The bond was sewer betterment, right? And at the time, the bond was being paid by sewer betterment, not by true taxation.
that's not correct, because there was no means by which for it to be paid by sewer betterment. The project was not complete at the time that was done. The sewer commission had not determined the betterment structure, and no bills had been generated.
How did the town get stuck with the bill? Because we're the bonding agent?
Yes.
It's a general
Because it's a town
obligation
expense.
bond. It's a town of Tilton.
So that is part of the $800,000?
Yes.
I just want to make two more comments here. On Article 11, that was the $17,000. I know that we had had the light studies done for a number of times here, the efficiency, lighting efficiency. $17,000. Have we not funded that before in the past, or at least money to do energy efficiency stuff in the past? And why is this, do we have a breakdown as to how much for each department?
Yes, we do. I received a report on that. I think there's some more up here. And I believe, was it last year we funded the budget for doing those repairs? And I'm not sure if we funded it the previous year, too, for...
We only did it 1 year. I'd have
One
to
year's
look.
all I think.
I think it was the last 2 years we put money in to change the lighting fixtures in here.
We've only
I
had
thought it was
2 audits.
Just 1 year.
We've only had 2
Okay.
energy audits.
2 energy audits.
One when Norm Boudreau was a selectman that he spearheaded.
And that would be last years that we funded it.
I think this year before.
And again, have we gotten, have we gotten bids for this amount of $17,000, or is this a guesstimate?
Lots of it.
It's all bid out? You want to go back out again to bid before the work actually gets done, or is it all set and ready to say, okay, here's $17,000, change everything?
Well, we're not going to change everything, only what they recommend. And no, it wouldn't go out to bid again. The second one we've had.
Article 12, $35,000 for the excavation clearing of business, the excavation lot and the business park drive there. What did we use for a snow storage area before we owned Business Park Drive?
Buffalo Park. Or not Buffalo Park. We've used Buffalo Park, we've used the parking lot at the ball field, and we used Riverfront Park.
Is there any particular reason why we couldn't go back, rather than incurring more cost for the town? Any reason why we couldn't go back doing?
The Conservation Commission prefers that we not use Buffalo Park because there's a brook that runs by that parking lot.
I'm not certain.
What can you, because you're on the Conservation Commission. There was an issue with wetlands in Buffalo Park. Riverfront Park, it's obvious why we wouldn't dump our snow there. And the ball field isn't big enough by itself. Oh, because we don't use the ball field, we use the parking lot. Unless we continue to have years like this year and last year. If we had a year normal snow, we wouldn't have room.
Moving on, Article 13, we have not touched on this article at all here tonight. This is $16,000 in order to construct office space and meeting room space behind you on the stage there. I understand part of why you would want to turn that into office space and why, with Heather downstairs, the welfare office needing have maybe a little bit more elbow room and stuff. Did we get bids on this as well? Is this
We've had a bid on that.
a bid or?
We have not put it out to RFP. This is just a budgeting bid.
So it would go out to bid after?
It would go out for an RFP bid to, yeah.
And if you didn't get any bids within this dollar amount, what would happen?
Well, I'm sure we would get bids within that dollar amount. The bid that we have, this is reflected in that dollar amount, the bid that we currently have. And so, we have a firm bid of this amount. I would hope when we went out to RFP that we get bids of maybe a little lesser amount. Usually they range, a couple $1,000s. But the reason you're saying this is a warrant article, not in the budget for maintenance, is because it's not a gotta have. It's making the best use of unused space, but it's not a drop dead, we gotta have it done, such as the snow area. We have to have a place to put snow. If we don't create and develop that area up there, town hall's gonna function as it always has for the past, 100 so years. We'll get by.
These warrant articles are adding over $200,000 to our budget, and we're trying to reduce it, and people are still having trouble.
$296,500.
$300,000 on my tax rate?
$296,500.
Represents approximately 52 cents if they're all passed.
Yeah, well, for some people, that 52 cents is quite a bit of money.
Well, I think the legislative body needs to know that up front before they even bid on them.
Scott, do you have a question on that article?
On this article that is just being discussed now, Article 13. I guess I'm confused because I would think that the ideal location to move the welfare director would be where the finance officer is, which would be downstairs for people that are coming in. A lot of people that need assistance, they have handicaps. They have needs, and so I would think that downstairs was where you'd want the welfare officer. And the one office that I think would be the best for that would be where Tim is. And bring Tim up here. Not a lot of people go in to see Tim, and not that I like it that way. But what I'm saying is, people come into town hall to see the land use, they come in to see the selectman's secretary, they come in to see the town administrator, or they come in to see the welfare officer. Why would you put the welfare officer upstairs? It makes no sense.
Because we have a handicap lift, because there's security issues, because we don't want her in a secluded part of town hall, such as that corner or that corner. We want her where there are other people around her. So if she were here, you would have Johanna over there.
So what if Johanna's not here?
And myself up there.
And what if you're not here? There's always someone downstairs.
I'm almost always here when she is here.
I just think that it makes a lot of sense to not break up all of town hall if you move certain people around. I also think that if the selectmen need a private area to meet, the ideal location to close off would be the old meeting room downstairs. It would be very easy to close that off, to put a doorway across there, and they shut the door, and there's a perfect meeting area if they have to go into a non-public session or have a private area to meet. It also creates an area, if there is meeting to happen, it could happen downstairs in a closed environment.
Except often at planning board and zoning board meetings, people that come to those meetings are standing in the hallway because there's not enough seats. So if you close it off, you're reducing the size of that meeting room space.
You wouldn't be losing much, Catherine.
You'd be losing a lot, because you have to still have access to the lift.
You're closing off the vault.
You're closing off Cindy's vault.
Our storage cabinet for supplies and our area, we have no lunchroom, that's where we have our
No,
refrigerator.
the town vault's in that meeting room.
But as far as the welfare, I'll stick with the welfare. The welfare officer, I think, should be downstairs, I really do. I think that's a perfect location. They come up the ramp and it's right there. We've had it downstairs.
It's not a safe location for the welfare director.
Well, I think it's much safer than what she's been underneath the staircase.
That's not a very safe place either.
Hold on.
Pardon?
I'm the only one in that building.
We've had to have the police here a couple of times.
That's, yeah, so it's...
So, but nevertheless, it's,
Well, I think there's a way to address it without needing use money to create it. That's my comment with that.
Can I bounce to
Tony?
Article 8? The future town will vote to raise the appropriate sum of $20,000 to be added to the capital reserve fund, which we created in 2002. We created this capital reserve fund in the townwide revaluation. And if my memory is correct, it was $17 million. And now this is $20,000. We have a new estimate, is that why this is up?
We have a new estimate, and if we left it at 17,000, we would end up having, at the end of the year, another $4,600 or something to, at the end of that, so that's why we put 20 and not have it at the end.
When do we do the next townwide
Next year,
revaluation?
2014. 2014, the total cost of the reval plus our regular contract assessing is $91,900. The reval, the update portion of that is 68, I just had that number. 68.5. So we annually budget between $38,000 and $40,000 every year anyway in our operating budget for assessing services. And then we take a little and put it away so that when we get the big spike in our fifth year, we don't have to raise that all in 1 year.
The same, how do we set with that? And the only reason I bring it up is because it's, you know, we have the same school district of all three towns, Sanderson, Tilton, Northfield, and it's very beneficial as far as in the funding formula for the school in regards to the equalized valuation portion, which is 30%. In the equalized valuation formula, that would be substantially affected depending on what year you're in your reval.
Right.
Where do we stand with Tilton, with Northfield and Sanderson in the reval? Do you know in years, what year they're in and what year we're in?
Right. In the past, it was Northfield and Samberton were 2013, Tilton was 2014. We applied for and received permission from DRA to change our certification year to 2013. So all three towns would be the same. Went through that process, got it approved, and then Northfield went ahead and they moved their reval to 2012.
Yeah.
So
they
they're
just had-
a year ahead of both Sanderson.
Yeah, so now it's Northfield is 2012, Samberton's 2013, Tilton's 2014.
So we didn't go through with the 2013 change?
That is correct.
Oh, we didn't go through the change.
No, we asked to change it back to 2014.
That way, then you spread the cost of that, the expense of the reval. There's no point in moving it up a year if not all three are on it. So
Right.
that way, it's spread out over more years.
And hopefully the economy will improve.
Pat, we haven't heard from you.
Equalized valuation, equalized that across regardless of when you're reevaluating.
No, it's 2 years old, the equalized value ratio they use.
Not with the school district.
But the equalization ratio flattens out, say, where Northfield's equalized value went down $75 million or so. That should be accounted for in the ratio annually when we're looking at the new numbers for next year.
It'll still hit them lower. It'll still make them lower, Tim, even
with
valuation.
Well, with the equalization ratio, it's supposed to account for that, so that everybody is at a level field. That's the state.
When we were doing the school funding, it still will affect.
It's never going to be the same unless you have the same assessor in all three towns using the same methodology. It's never going to be quite.
The only thing that would be best is if all three towns were on the same year cycle.
That and use the same assessing.
That's right.
Yeah.
32.
Sorry, John.
That's okay. Anything else?
Just a question for Catherine. You were talking about the ball field, and we have a lease with the diocese. What is the length of that lease? And are there any specific outs that the Catholic Church could use in order to take the land back to sell?
Let me get the lease.
Oh, that would be a good idea. Patience, sir. I'm all set.
How much is in the recreation fund now? We have that, right? Was 27,000 or 30?
Yeah, $27,055.28. Recreational Facilities Capital Reserve Fund.
2755. And 5,000 would bring it up to the 32,000. Did they say, was there a expense that was for leveling the field?
Leveling the field.
And that were estimates in on that? I didn't see it. It was just a...
Question about the whole rest of the process. I don't know where the appropriate time is to bring it up. I have a question about the whole getting bids and bubble process that the town goes through.
Anything over $500.
I understand that, but I was told last week that it's on the town's website, and I spent an hour looking on the town's website. I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah. Can write again.
But I don't know where to bring it. Or if I should bring it up. I go to other towns and write on their town website RFPs and bidding process, and it seems very secretive.
Want me to bring it up? Tim, while she's digging that up, presently, are there any things that are out for bid now that are on the website, or, where are they placed on the website?
Usually when the selectmen go out to bid on something, they're usually right on the front page.
On the front page?
Higher than 16,000.
Is there like a holder for it that says bids, and then it can say there are none present?
We do that for employment.
Legal fee, 16,000. Oh, okay. We're in a meeting now, so you go back where you belong.
Yeah, it might be good to have a placeholder for it, so that if people, they don't say, well, maybe there's something else out there that we can't find. If we look, say, there are none present, there are no things. I think Scott, did you raise your hand a second ago?
Pat just gave me this, and I just want to run through the numbers to give the Budget Committee a little better idea. I know we had these in front of us before, but this is the roads, Dennis's, I believe it's Dennis's road improvements. And looking down through, in the 3 years, we've been putting and we never used to do that, and I guess it's something that's being done now in 2013, is the block grant, and that's from the state, right?
Was this last week?
Road block grant.
Last week?
So that's going into the reserve fund?
He's asking.
Oh, he's asking, okay, because we've never done that in the past.
He's asking us.
Okay.
roads.
So,
Effectively, it doesn't happen each year.
but you've used this fund to try to show, they've used this, and of course, if you look at it, they had to use the figure of 60, and we have a warrant article 65, but there's actually, it looks like there's 50 or 55,000 coming from the block grant every year, and they're putting it, but still, when you look at this, and you get out to year 2016, the fund, at the end of 2015, John, the fund would have 145,436 in the fund with the work that's being done in the next 3 years. But then when you look at 2016, it's $429,321. Even if you add 110,000 or 115,000 to the 145,000, you're at 260. So you're still short $160,000 or $170,000
If I may,
in that 1 year.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. One of the things that I look at also is from our total municipal budget, how we're looking from a taxpayer perspective. And in 2016, we moved from debt to drop off both the cleanup and the last year percent. So what I was hoping to do with Dennis is to look at how his expenditures can somehow match up with Dennis's coming off, so that taxpayers, they're not being impacted.
Yeah, but this year we had 140,000, 114, 140,000 worth of debt dropped off, and it got sucked right up into the operating budget.
Really, we had 80,000 of a payment come out. Then we had to refinance.
And which dropped our debt load about 100.
About 110.
110, and we spent 138,000 in the line items increase. So that's my concern, Tim, is that as we pay off debt, it doesn't necessarily mean that money's going to be available just to be able to be put on the new projects.
Right, but I'm looking at it from a taxpayer perspective, just so that if there is a way to try to smooth the expenditures, that it's done in such a way that we know there's money coming out, that the planning can be done in such a way so that it doesn't all bottleneck in one particular year. And I think it makes sense to look at those things.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we can raise a little bit more every year, in the first 3 years, and start earlier, we're going to have less of a 2010 thing. And not basically just count on what you're paying off on debt load to carry yourself in the future. So you basically put it away, I look at it as you put it away in the savings account, is the best way to look at it for a future expense. And you tuck some away instead of spending everything that you've got coming in. That's the only thing I'm saying, though. I think this clearly states what I was trying to state earlier, that we can't just look on a 10-year or on a CIP or whatever. He gave us a 10-year plan, if I was not mistaken. 10-year road plan, and you can't just take the first 3 years and say you're fine the first 3 years. You've got to look and see how you are through the whole thing.
Yeah, because occasionally you have the major rebuild.
Thank you.
Eric?
Just for fun and giggles, back in June, when he had given us his 10-year plan, it was kind of discombobulated. It was not year by year. And I went and made my own spreadsheet using his information and breaking it down year by year. But the total for his 10 years, including parking lots, was, $1.735 million by the end of the year, 2021. So.
And that doesn't include sidewalks.
That does not include sidewalks. That's just roads and parking lots.
You could look at that, if you broke that down into 10 years, which you're not, because you're going to 2021, which is not 10 years out.
No, but I broke it down year by year, and then I subtotaled it for the whole kit and caboodle.
So 1.7 million, you're looking at 170,000 a year, if you're looking at 10 years. is the true number.
I mean, I brought this up at the last meeting, and I just felt like we weren't going to have enough based on the projects coming out. And 2014 is $270,000 of projects, including parking lots, not including sidewalks, but...
Anything else? Okay. Anybody else?
Did the lease question get answered?
Regarding the bids?
No, the lease.
The lease.
It's over there somewhere. I pulled it out last week for somebody to make a copy of, and I must have misfiled it.
Eaton, but the file, yeah.
99-year lease.
That's what I
Pardon?
thought.
It's actually a 20-year
It's a
lease.
20-year lease.
Signed in 2000 or 2001, and we believe the diocese could that lease.
At any time?
With notice. I think, isn't it a year? It's like a year.
The two churches are merging.
The last time I talked to the diocese, which was just recently, I'm a member of that church, and Norm also talked to them. They have no plans of abandoning that cemetery property, none whatsoever. And they've been approached by developers to buy it.
So, my understand, so the lease is in, for his 20 years, started in 2001, goes to 2021,
We have an option to,
with an option to extend, renew after that. There is no non-revocable clause within the contract with them. They can just, they have to give us notice, or is it
I think it's a year. Isn't
a
it
year notice?
I haven't read it recently, but I still remember there being some notice, I don't know.
But they do have to provide notice that they are no longer willing to participate in that contract and give us a certain amount of time to vacate that property.
Right.
Do we have to normalize that property? Or can we leave it?
Everything we do on it, we get permission from the diocese.
Because we put a well in, which is a major
We
construction change.
Right, well, they were actually quite happy with the well. We pay $1 a year for the lease, although I don't think we've ever paid them, which is very sad. Very sad.
But that's all
But
right.
we had long conversations with them about the well. They have a well, it's a dug well,
Yep.
but it wasn't adequate to irrigate that ball field.
So they signed off on that improvement.
They were very happy that we put the well in.
Very diplomatic. So,
And that's why they're not coming after us for the lease money.
But we wouldn't be able to have the
We want
ball
our
field
dollars.
without irrigation. We
and
almost
I'm not
lost it.
disagreeing,
We
but,
almost lost it 3 years ago.
okay. That's all right.
We did, we almost lost it completely to being just burnt.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine.
So the question on that warrant article was to put an additional $5,000 in there. We have, what, 27.5 in there? And that would bring it up to 32.5?
27,055.
55, 27,055.
Literally just a tick over.
If we to leave it at the 27.55, would that, I mean, are we planning on spending that whole amount this year, or?
They have plans for programs in the park and for improving recreation. They've been in communication with the Pines Community Center, to partnering with them in recreation. So, number one, we're not duplicating, and number two, so that we're better serving the public. To answer your question, I attended their meeting Monday night, and they have lots of plans for more recreational activities, especially in Riverfront Park.
And who signs off on the fund spending? That's selectmen, right? From that fund?
Agents for that fund,
The agents
I
are,
believe, is the park commissioners. But they have been bringing their proposals to the Board of Selectmen.
they haven't brought any proposals for the spending of it?
No, they're going to present it at town meeting to the legislative body who will vote on it.
Anything else, anybody? We're all set, then. That's it for the public portion of the hearing on the warrant articles or any other budget items that could have been brought up. Let's see, what else did we have on the agenda here?
Other business?
Yeah, other business, the next thing is we're going to be getting some different numbers in that from the selectmen after tomorrow?
I gotta have some clarification on why on earth the Budget Committee has a public hearing on the warrant.
On the warrant article? Because we decide whether or not we want to approve or not approve things.
The last meeting.
That was not a public hearing.
Yeah, but, okay, but you don't have to have a public hearing to do that. And it's very explicit in 32 that you will have a public hearing on each budget, not the warrant articles.
The other...
There's people that were here tonight that were here to discuss the budget, which is the only authority the Budget Committee has. You have no authority over the warrant except to approve or not approve.
Exactly, and by getting this information, we could decide how the people feel about the money being spent and say, well, maybe we don't approve of some of these things and change our approval or not. We have until the 20th to turn in our approval.
Right, but I'm saying by having a public hearing on the budget, which is what you're supposed to do, not a public hearing on the warrant articles, that's not required. You've disenfranchised people that were here to discuss the budget.
Anybody could discuss the budget tonight.
Yeah, but this meeting was totally about the warrant articles.
Yeah. Well,
ridiculous.
There was some...
I'm just saying,
the other purpose was
it's so
that...
clear here.
If something happened and we canceled the previous
Well, I understand why
public
you
hearing,
have to.
then we have this one as a backup just in
I totally
case.
understand why you have to, and I think it's a great idea. But the law is very clear. Your public hearings are on the budget, not the warrant. It's the selectmen's warrant. So sitting here and discussing the amounts, it's one thing for the Budget Committee to do that, but people come here and expect to discuss this, not warrant articles. That they have no...
That's why I said we
There can be no changes to those warrant articles except whether you approve or disapprove of them tonight. That's all you can do.
Or by the 20th, right?
Or by the 20th,
By
right.
the 20th,
But,
yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Or we could have made changes to the budget where they could rehash it again, too.
Well, if there'd been a discussion on the budget.
And it didn't come up. There was a few discussions on things in the budget.
I just think the meeting is being controlled by a select few who had other purposes. I just think it's too bad that those who did come to discuss the budget were so disenfranchised.
Okay, so the next thing, we have till the 20th. When we have to sign that, there's no time that we have to sign it, so we could sign it that evening. And it has to be signed by all Budget Committee members?
Majority.
A majority. Okay.
And you still have two numbers. One is the estimate for
the estimate for...
We're going to vote tomorrow night.
Right.
We should have our numbers tomorrow night.
So we need to meet.
I would suggest that we do meet again on the 20th to sign the thing so that we don't have to play tag to get it done, and to decide on some of this information. I see every single thing was recommended, and I think there was some...
We haven't voted on our vote.
We haven't voted.
No. We haven't voted on that. That's a draft.
We have to make a decision whether we approve or disapprove
Well,
of
by the time we come back, when we meet on the 20th, we would have had our vote, and then you could make your...
I think that's why Catherine was making the statement that she made, was because we gave you a draft of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's
So any of these numbers can be changed?
Any of those numbers, and, we're talking about, we have estimates coming tomorrow night.
Right.
We're talking about 2 or 3 different articles that I can think of the top of my head, and trust me, my brain's not working very well lately, that I know that probably have a high probability of changing.
Yeah, see, it's problematic when we get these warrant articles, and we don't even have them, and it's already after the public hearing date. I mean, we're in the...
You don't have public hearings on the warrant. You were supposed to have
Yes.
public hearings on the budget.
Right.
Yes,
That's what the law
but we
says.
do...
That's what the law
This
says.
affects the tax rate. The tax rate's going up by 2.3%.
Your responsibility
With this, we're
as
going up
per-
almost 5%.
And can't we
Go on.
change our mind if we recommend or not
You
recommend?
can
Exactly.
change your mind right up until the
Yep.
20th.
Right up to the 20th.
But it doesn't make any difference. If the selectmen vote to leave the amounts and put them in, the only thing that happens is it goes in with or without your approval.
Right. Say
That's the only
selectmen
difference.
Recommend, Budget Committee does not recommend this article. And that's how it goes.
And we've
in.
had plenty of those.
Town meeting, and then at town meeting, the legislative body.
So I don't understand what the issue is, that we have a public input on what they feel.
This isn't a
on
public
these.
input, this is a public hearing. Because the law says, the governing body or budget committee, if there is one, shall hold at least one public hearing on each budget, on your
Okay.
budget. This is your budget. This is the selectmen's warrant, not your budget. This is your budget, okay? The other hearing you have is on, anybody know? Bonds or notes in excess of $100,000? That's what you have a public hearing on.
And
We have
this-
people
we
sitting
did-
in this audience that were waiting to talk about the budget committee's budget.
I'm going to have to say that I did clearly state to everybody
I know you did.
that you can talk about the budget, and I'm going to leave it at that. This
I'm
was
saying-
open for all budget people, anybody who had any questions on the budget to talk about. We did discuss, there was amendment to the police budget, there was no comment on it, we voted on that. I asked if there were any other changes, anything else, there were none.
Yep.
And then we accepted public comment on the other thing. It's an open public meeting. I can run it and accept any kind of input from the public as to how their taxes are going to run out. We're the budget committee. We have to deal with these things, right?
You didn't deal with the budget, that's, I'm just baffled
We
by
did.
it. But you had one, you know what, it's neither here nor there, we're not going to agree,
Okay.
and I totally disagree.
Well, the important
We
thing...
can agree to disagree.
The police got their server.
We got
Move
the
on
server.
from there.
Oh,
Is
that
there any
counts,
other
right, sir?
business? Any other business that we need to hash out?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion adjourned? to
I second it.
The 20th.
Meeting on the 20th, yes.
Okay.
And Catherine, if you find it, just give me a call.
Find it tomorrow.
Is there,
Just don't rush.
It's in that
we
brief.
we just got to show up and do
Can I
that.
stuck it back in?
All those in favor?
All those in favor, say aye. It's non-debatable.
I know, but you can still vote no.
I don't know, well, it depends on where they're going to actually meet. They keep flopping and flipping, now I guess...
At the middle school cafeteria.
Yeah, so...
I think it's